So Dust Bunny was one of my hidden gems of 2025. This was a movie that came out rather late in the year. It was a mystery movie for one of the mystery movie nights that we had a live stream discussion about, except Corey from Wilkie's Movies and Music was the only one who saw that one. The rest of us saw two other films, so that was a whole thing. I'm really bummed that I missed watching this film in theaters because I think it would have been so much more, immersive and enjoyable. Not that it wasn't enjoyable, but you know what I mean. The big screen experience is the best. This film, it's hard to put this into words. It's a very interesting little story. It was directed and I think written also by Bryan Fuller, and this is his directorial debut. I was quite impressed with what he did here. He is the creator of Pushing Daisies and Hannibal. So he's worked with Mads Mikkelsen before. Mads was in this movie. And he's worked on other things like American Gods, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Dead Like Me, and Heroes. And I think he was involved in the writing of Predator Badlands. So he's got this, well, if you remember Pushing Daisies, I have a vague recollection of it, but I do recall that series being a bit whimsical and dark, almost fairy tale-ish in tone. And that aesthetic and vibe carries through into this movie. It's got this, I kept thinking whimsical when I was watching it because that's how it felt. But at the same time, it had these pretty dark undertones to it. Now, this is a PG-13 movie. I think there are multiple deaths that happen. It's not something that's super explicit, but it's definitely not for very young children. It's also got stylized dialogue. So the aesthetic, the tone, the dialogue really stood out to me. It created this interesting world. For example, just the location that this story was happening in, I was confused. I didn't know, is this supposed to be the United States or is it like just a whole other different reality, just some generic place? But I found out about, 30, 35 minutes in that it was happening in New York. It does not look like New York. They actually filmed this in Europe, so that's probably why it didn't really look like New York. But I think it also has to do with the intentional way this world was designed. It's not supposed to feel like today or really completely any other time period. The look of it was almost like something from the 60s, sometimes with the way that people were dressed and the way the sets were designed. But when you saw the driver's licenses of some of the characters, it was present day because they were modern driver's licenses. So it was just this very odd but interesting blend of different things. And the basic storyline, which I probably should have started off with in the beginning, is that it's this young girl and she believes that there is a monster under her bed, a dust bunny that has grown into this monster. And she hires her neighbor who she saw killing a monster earlier. She hires him to kill this monster under her bed. That's the basic synopsis of it. And throughout the story, it keeps that offbeat tone and the retro look to it. Something else I noticed was that I don't recall seeing a piece of modern technology at all. Like no smartphones, no tablets, no laptops. There wasn't even a TV. It was so strange, but in all the right ways. The whole story is this interesting little twist on the monster under the bed trope. It's also got some other playful ways that very dark moments are captured on screen. I'll give you a couple of examples. There is a shot of the feet of a dead body in the foreground while it's showing another character in the background talking calmly to someone else outside the door. And the scene is just so like there's a dead body here. Person over here is talking to the other person out there. Like it's like nothing untoward is going on. And then there's another scene where there's cheerful music playing when a character is dismembering a body behind a closed door. It was just the wildest thing, you guys. Mads Mikkelsen, obviously one of the bigger name actors in here. Sigourney Weaver is also in here, and David Dastmalchian. So that was fun to see both of them. Sigourney Weaver pretty much chewed up every scene that she was in. And the banter that she had with Mads Mikkelsen and also the little girl was sharp and witty. And you quickly realized that the words that they said didn't really match what was actually being talked about. I thought that was handled very well. Mads and the little girl had a sweet relationship. It was full of this back and forth banter. He's dealing with this little girl and thinks she's a little bit cuckoo because she says there's a monster under her bed and he doesn't believe it. He thinks something else is going on. And she is very serious. Her little face is very serious. She's a serious child. Well, with good reason, because of some of the things that have been happening to her in her life. And you start to find out a little bit more about her background and his background a bit as the story unfolds. Most of the characters also in here were unnamed. The little girl had a name, Sigourney Weaver had a name, at least one other character that I remember had a name, but some of the other characters weren't even given a name. Mads Mikkelsen's character was not given a name. He was called Intriguing Neighbor. On the cast list, that's how he shows up, and also in the subtitles. It says Intriguing Neighbor Size or something like that. And David Dastmalchian's character was given the name Conspicuously Inconspicuous Man. Cracked me up. It cracked me up. The dialogue, as I touched on already, is kind of a standout. I really liked how sharp it was, witty it was, and also playful, even though what the characters were talking about wasn't playful. I also like that the film takes its time slowly revealing to you a little bit about each character, like the little girl's character. Mads' character, he doesn't get a huge background reveal, though by extension, with another character, you piece some stuff together. And Sigourney Weaver's character, you're not really given the full extent of who she is completely until pretty much towards the very, very end. So I thought that was an interesting tactic with the characters, and I liked the slow reveal of these things. I've often referred to stuff like that as peeling back the layers of the onion, and I thought that was handled pretty well here. You have to pay attention to the subtext of what's going on, and you start to question what's happening here. Is the little girl really seeing a monster, or is it something more grounded? At the end of the film, you are given the answer to that. One of the issues I had with the story is that I'm not quite sure how that sits with me. And I don't want to give too much away. I mean, on the face of it, I understand and do appreciate what that messaging with regard to the themes of the movie and what it's about, as far as the little girl and what she's dealing with in life. But at the same time, I'm not sure if that works as well for me as I think it might have if it had been something else. There are some other things that made me scratch my head a little bit, and maybe I just didn't pay complete attention or something just went right over my head. I have screened this twice now because I'm going to be doing a written review for the Latino Slant, so keep an eye out for that. But there are some things that I didn't understand. As far as this monster under her bed, it seemed like there were some inconsistent rules about how the monster would behave. She had indicated that it killed people who stepped on the floor, but there were other times that it would kill people who weren't stepping on the floor. And it appeared during the daytime, even after she had said it only came out at night. And then sometimes it would manifest, but other times it wouldn't. And I think maybe by the time the movie is over, if I really pondered it a little bit more, these might not really be cons, because all of these things might be explained away once you realize what's really going on. So I don't know, that might just be a me thing, but a couple of other things that stood out to me. And none of these are huge, you guys, because I was quite charmed by this movie. But I found it interesting that no one in the building seemed to ever notice the loud chaos that was going on floor 5. You know, the violence. And then there were times that the little girl she would be riding this hippo statue around. It had wheels and she's pushing herself along because she didn't want to touch the floor. And it seemed that as far as where this monster was constrained to was just her apartment. But at one point she's riding the hippo monster outside of her apartment. I didn't understand that. Maybe it was just a demonstration of her quirky little behavior because she is an unusual child. But overall, as I indicated in my opening line, this was a hidden gem for me. It didn't get a lot of attention. It wasn't on the big screen very long. I think that's a shame. It's such an inventive little story with interesting visuals and a playful yet dark tone and great dialogue. I really did like the dialogue. It had strong performances and a unique aesthetic that you will know exactly what I'm talking about whenever you check this out. Whatever issues I had with it, maybe you'll notice them too, but maybe you'll also get the point that I was trying to make, that it's possible that these really are non-issues. It might really have everything to do with the little girl and the way she is. But I think that if you enjoy this style of storytelling, if you're familiar with this director's other work, if you're familiar with that sort of tone that he seems to enjoy, and if you like inventive stories that put a cool twist on things that we're already familiar with, monsters under the bed, bad guys, little kids in peril, stuff like that, I think that you will appreciate the charm that this film has to offer. For now, that's all I have to say about Dust Bunny. I hope you guys can check it out sometime, and if you do, let me know what you think. All right, that's it for this one. Bye.